everybody, I hope you're ready for a little rock and or roll, because today we are indeed taking a look at Cotton Rock and Roll, a game that I was super excited to play as a fan of the Cotton series, and I was interested to see what a new original Cotton game would be like. Cotton Reboot was amazing, but as the name implies, that was a reboot modeled after the first game in the series, and there have been some re-releases of other previous Cotton games, but this is something totally new, and it has a lot to live up to. This is a long-running and mostly much-beloved series, not counting a couple of the less impressive games. So let's jump right in and see if Cotton Rock and Roll is an instant classic, or if you're better off sticking with Cotton Reboot. The basic gameplay of Cotton R&R is going to be very familiar to anyone who has ever played a game in the Cotton series, or at least if you're playing as Cotton herself. There are actually a ton of different playable characters, but we will get to that a little later. The story is more or less the same as what you'd expect. The magical candy called willows are seemingly disappearing from existence, which could signify the end of the world. So Cotton once again teams up with her fairy companion Silk to investigate what's going on and hopefully save the world, though the only thing Cotton really cares about is getting to eat her favorite candy. So yeah, not exactly the most heroic protagonist. When playing as Cotton, just like any other game in the series, as you destroy enemies, they leave behind multicolored crystals that grant you experience points when picked up and ultimately enable you to level up and increase your attack strength. But also, depending on what color the crystal is, you'll swap back and forth between different elemental powers, which changes your fire mode. And you'll be swapping a lot because this game is very generous with the crystals, making leveling up fast very easy. You can store 3 crystals at a time, and by charging up your shot, you can fire off a mighty super attack, which not only deals a ton of damage, but also converts any bullets it touches into bonus points. In addition to that, you can also pick up extra fairies that will follow you around and fire off attacks of their own. Pretty much the same thing as the options in Gradius, and whenever you want, you can sacrifice one for a mighty super bomb, and they do a ton of damage. Overall, this is a very fun shoot 'em up that does a great job of updating the basic gameplay of the Cotton series. It's not the most difficult shooter ever, but it does offer a decent challenge, and it features multiple difficulty settings. There are usually tons of enemies and sometimes obstacles to deal with, big boss battles to take on, featuring giant monsters and rival magic users, bonus stages in the form of third-person tea time, which is essential to any Cotton title, and in general, this game just controls and plays really well. It's a lot of fun and very satisfying for a Cotton fan, and that's really just the tip of the iceberg.
Tea time!
I mentioned this earlier, that there are other playable characters in R&R aside from just Cotton, and there are in fact 6 other playable characters to choose from, and they all play quite differently from one another, making it worth trying out each one to find a favorite. For starters, you can play as Cotton's rival, named Aptly. She plays pretty much the exact same as she did in Cotton 2, so she still uses the same crystal power-up system that Cotton does, but instead of fairy companions and a super bomb, she can grab hold of enemies and use them as a powerful projectile, which makes her a similar character to Kawase. That's right, from the little-known but much-loved series Umi Hara Kawase. She flies around on a giant pufferfish, and her shot changes depending on what crystal you pick up, but her special attack is her fishing lure that can hook in enemies from a distance, allowing you to use them as a powerful projectile, which is always fun. My personal favorite character is probably Rhea, who is inspired by another success shooter series that I like a lot, which is Syvarrior. When you're playing as Rhea, there are no power-ups to collect, but instead you level up as you destroy enemies, and you have the ability to skim bullets. Basically, if you let them graze your side, which can be very risky, you are rewarded with lots of bonus points, and you'll level up just that much faster. She has 2 fire modes, standard and her spinning attack, which is activated by holding down the fire button, and in place of a special attack, Rhea has a powerful super bomb, making her a very straightforward and powerful character. Again, probably my favorite in the game, as I am also a fan of the Syvarrior games, and that playstyle is implemented perfectly here. Next up is a character named Fine, who is probably my least favorite character to play as, though I will admit that her playstyle is pretty intriguing. She doesn't have any super bombs, just a few different shot types to swap between at will, and she doesn't have any lives per se, but instead she has a running clock that loses a chunk of time when you take a hit, and time is restored when you pick up time crystals, and when it reaches 0, obviously you die. Again, this is an interesting gameplay mechanic and still very fun, but my least favorite way to play. Next up is Luffy, who is probably the most basic character in the game. She has a single laser shot that can be powered up as you destroy enemies, and she has a charge shot that can be performed as many times as you want, and aside from that, she also has a limited supply of super bombs. No bells and whistles, no special attacks, no variety of elemental powers, just a simple and straightforward character for a shooter fan that likes to keep things simple. And finally, there is Takut, and I hope I'm saying that right, the antagonist of the game that can be unlocked after you complete the story mode. She also plays similarly to Cotton, and that she can collect crystals for XP and to change her elemental shot, but she also has a very nifty special ability in the form of her dividing wand. You can keep it close by to fire as usual, or you can launch it forward to deal damage to enemies, convert bullets into bonus points, and it will stay in place until you call it back, enabling you to fire at multiple targets at once, or just focus a lot of firepower on a single enemy, and she can make very short work of bosses. Probably my second favorite character in the game. She's a lot of fun to play as. I feel like I've already said a lot about this game, and I haven't even mentioned the graphics and sound design yet, which I must apologize for, because holy hell, this game features some fantastic visuals and sound design. Cotton R&R features the same cute and colorful, but also at times kind of horror-inspired visuals that the series is known for, and every stage is very detailed, including varying levels of animation in the backgrounds, with some stages, such as the airship, for example, shifting around quite a lot. Plus, the character and enemy designs are great as usual, and the cutscenes are very cute, but they don't change at all depending on what character you're using. You always get Cotton's story, but that's not much of a gripe, really. Also, as is typical of the Cotton series, the soundtrack is really good and features a wide range of tracks that go from light and whimsical to a little more intense when things get a little more challenging. So I've gone on and on, but to sum up, Cotton Rock and Roll features some great music, nice visuals, very fun gameplay, and a big bunch of characters to play as that are all very welcome. So if you're a shoot-'em-up fan with a Nintendo Switch, I'd highly recommend picking up this game if you haven't already, either as Cotton Rock and Roll or its international version called Cotton Fantasy. Either way, you'll be having a good time. It's Cotton Rock and Roll, and it's awesome.
が回る。レベルアップ。怖い。くるくるくるくる。